The thing about war is that in every war, including in a lot of cases, wars that are not literal wars but are metaphorical wars and are not meant to be taken as literal, like combat, like the war on drugs and all of that other stuff. And in this case, what the primary concept that I'm going to lean into is the war on online piracy and internet piracy. And what I mean in this context is the violation of intellectual property, essentially. Everything the DCMA is meant to prevent. But the war against those of us who like wares, okay? But war in pretty much any era, but especially in today with advanced weapon systems and very powerful bombs and that sort of thing, is almost always and invariably a situation where there is. Thank God I have so much trouble pronouncing that situation. But it's one in which essentially there is a thing that we refer to as collateral damage and fallout. And the thing that gets me is that I'm a big reader of a particular publication that's been going around for a very long time, ever since torrents took over, but that would be Torrent Freak in particular and everything. And I follow the news that they're reporting, and I actually read most of what they post, and they talk about on the practically religious, consistency to it. Like it's almost, what I mean. It's almost at that kind of level where they don't publish something that I don't read. Every now and then I might ignore an article from them, but usually not very often. And the thing that, as a long-term subscriber who's been subbed to them for a very long time and has been following almost everything they post for quite some time, I can honestly and truly tell you, that at the end of the day, and what I'm seeing is that you know there have been coordinated attacks by the copyrightists on the DNS infrastructure. And for those of you who don't know what DNS is, you know, the explain like I'm five on that one would be something like, the yellow pages for the internet, the phone book, basically. You look in the phone book about, well, anyways, in essence, if you go to a website like facebook.com, you know, that website is, really, to the computer, it's not facebook.com, it's the IP address of the website. But modern technology and the current state of the web works to obscure that, because when you have somebody's IP address, you can do things like, for instance, point a DOS attack at them and everything and try to flood their traffic. They become vulnerable, especially if you've got a botnet at your disposal. And we've definitely seen the rise of distributed denial of service attacks. Be offered it up, as a service. You can pay somebody basically to DDoS somebody else or another website, a major infrastructure site on the website. So there's a DDoS for hire as a service. Sort of thing where botnet owners, start renting out access to their botnets to other people. And what a botnet is a combination of machines that have, essentially you've built a huge number of computers that you've compromised and taken over, and they're at your command and control. You're able to tell them what to do. They're all your bots, and you're able to use them to attack whoever you want. And the thing is that some botnet owners have gone to the point in which they, will rent access to their botnets to somebody else. And we live in an environment where there's been an uptick too of this, because of the fact that IoT has sort of taken over on a lot of these new IoT devices, these Internet of Things devices. They very often have vulnerabilities in it. So if you have a piece of technology that's internet enabled on your network. They might not break into your computer. They might break in through your printer that has a bad set of files, and you bad uh, firmware that has some kind of vulnerability that they manage to find, and they break in that way, and they're able to get to do all kinds of interesting stuff once they get in. And this is just a evolving threat landscape that's been going on for some time. And but anyways, what I wanted to say is that in war, there is you know collateral damage happens. And this thing that the copyrightists have been doing has been going after the DNS servers. And what a DNS server does is it provides the IP addresses to your browser and to your other applications of the websites that you point things at, on your computer. And that's what it does. It makes it helps your computer do what's called resolving, the domain name, and so that it can communicate with it and get the information that you're trying to retrieve once you send these requests through. Anyways, the rights providers have been trying to censor Google DNS and Cloudflare DNS and all these other DNS service providers and everything. They've been doing everything they can to, poison, which is what happens when you take the phone book basically that this is, and you start making inaccurate entries in it on purpose to block people from accessing a website. They've been trying to get the DNS servers poisoned against certain pirate domains and everything, and they've been going in and and engaging in this war on the internet piracy. And all I could think is, I just had an awakening and a realization, but given just how powerful something I just bought happens to be, and I gathered and was able to. Oh God, no! God damn it! I'm going over to this. I'm trying to show you. Yeah, I sell toys on there, so they suggest things that they think are similar. But anyways, yeah, I know that you probably see that. But anyways, I bought this 2024, Apple, Mac Mini with the 16, this thing, and it's very powerful. And obviously it's the very base model of it. But wow, there's a 1-year warranty. Anyways, the thing is, I got it, I grabbed it, and I know that it's actually rather easy to upgrade that GB SSD yourself. It's not very particularly difficult. I might need to get some tools to get it done, but I could totally upgrade it. But the thing is that I don't plan to use it. It's supposed to be pretty headless, but I'm probably gonna have to create an SSH to get into it that way remotely. And but what I got about it was that I could put a Syrex, which is Syrex NG, actually, this particular thing, and with this search engine on it. But I also have plans at this point to put what is called AdGuard DNS on it and become a DNS server admin and take control of that and point it at Cloudflare's DNS, as well as add some backups from Google and everything. But then I'm gonna ping the pirate, the Pirate Bay, and ping a lot of the private trackers and everything, and their IP addresses, and I'm gonna plug in their websites into the thing, and create custom entries that point at it, just in case those DNS servers and the DNS server censorship ever comes to the United States. My DNS server is now programmed in with the accurate IP addresses, so that DNS censorships and blockades fail. Even if they manage to get those censored, my local backup isn't, so it just skull fucks and sabotages the censorship. But it got me that rebuilding my AdGuard DNS server meant that I'm going to be blocking all the advertisements and throwing them into a DNS sinkhole of my own and everything, and poisoning the DNS records against ads on the internet and everything. And in effect, because of this, people who do advertising on the internet and who benefit from click ads and ads being displayed on websites and all that other stuff are ultimately going to be the collateral damage in as a consequence of this, long-term war against internet piracy, is, that they're going to be one of the, people that is impacted negatively in their profits in a fashion that they don't like and everything. And I want you to know that your ads are blocked in large part because, for very little other reason than the fact is that the copyright holders fought like the Dickens to try to censor pirate websites, and I fought back to make sure that the content, the pirated content like the Spice and Dune will continue to flow no matter what.